program is to empower you to break out of your limiting principles, values, and beliefs to bring you into your desired divine destiny. I'm Minister Vicky, your co-host. Our desire is to help you fulfill your destiny and reach your goals by providing you with tools and techniques to facilitate your spiritual and emotional healing. Now let's join our host, the Restoration Doctor, Dr. D.L. Waters.
We thank you for being with us.
Welcome.
Blog Talk Radio today. I'm excited about the program for this day. We are looking at a sermon that was done by Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard, those of you who are familiar with this mystic, an individual who was just someone who approached life in a particular kind of way. I'll read a little bit of the bio that I have from him or regarding him, and it mentions that Neville Goddard was among the last century's most articulate and charismatic purveyors of the philosophy generally called New Thought. He wrote 10 books under the solitary pen name Neville, and was a popular speaker on metaphysical themes from the late 1930s until his death in 1972. Possessed of a self-educated and uncommonly sharp intellect, Neville captured the sheer logic of creative mind principles as perhaps no other figure of his era. Neville's way of thought is extolled today by Major League pitcher Barry Zito, and some say it influenced the ideas of Carlos Castaneda, Aldous Huxley, and others. And yet little is known about this teacher who exerted so unusual pull on the American spiritual scene of the mid-century. And so that's a little about Neville Goddard. Individuals who have read him, I've become a very big fan of Neville Goddard myself as I look at the way that he approaches life, how he presents it, and the whole aspect really of arriving at the point where you understand how to bring forth your life. I just like his approach. I like his approach. I believe that he is correct. This particular presentation is entitled Consciousness is the Only Reality. To you, by the virtue of the fact that you are here, we're going to believe again that Spirit has brought you forth into this particular moment and that you are here by divine appointment. You are here by divine appointment. So this particular item, as we look at it, I'm going to basically read it as it is written. And then there may be some points at which I will talk about it or say something about it, but I basically want to read it as it is written here as opposed to preaching it or even in a certain kind of way teaching it, but I want to read it as we have it here. The sermon is entitled, the lesson is entitled, Consciousness is the Only Reality. Consciousness is the only reality, and is entitled Lesson 1. There's a series that I have that are Lessons 1 through 5, and it is possible that we'll have all of those available to you so that you can listen to them. And I ask that if you're unfamiliar with Neville Goddard, just listen with an open mind. Just listen with an open mind. Indeed, in order to process something into you or bring it into you for you to consider it, you have to take it into your mind, take it into your conscious thought, really is the way to bring it in. But bring it into your mind, either your conscious or your subconscious mind. So many times individuals are actually functioning on a subconscious level. But what we're asking you to do is actually take it in to consider it with an open mind. And this is entitled Consciousness is the Only Reality. And Neville begins, he says, this is going to be a very practical course. Therefore, I hope that everyone in this class has a very clear picture of what he desires. For I am convinced that you can realize your desires by the techniques you will receive here this week in these 5 courses. So let's say that he was doing this and it was a set of courses, classes that he was going to do, seminar-like that he was going to do, and it was going to be done lessons 1 through 5 in a week. So an individual would listen to them day after day for a week. And so he mentions that one of the first items here is to have a clear picture of what you desire, a clear picture. This is so vital that you have a clear picture. We actually have a document that you could actually receive. You would email me at Dennis, DENNIS Dennis Waters, WATERS, the number 4, Dennis.Waters 4 at Comcast.net. We actually have an item that we call Through the Gate that has been designated for this very purpose, so that an individual is actually able to write down what it is that they desire, so that you can be very clear on what it is that you desire. Write that down. And he mentions up front that an individual should be very clear of what he or she desires. That you may receive the full benefit of these instructions, let me state now that the Bible has no reference at all to any person who ever existed or to any event that ever occurred upon the earth. So this is his approach to the Bible. Again, when we consider the Bible in this day and time, it is vital that we understand that in order to just consider the Bible, no matter what part of the Bible, you actually have to take it in and then actually create the individual in your mind that is being talked about. And so what Neville was talking about is really the aspect that in order to apply the Bible, whatever the character is in the Bible that is being talked about, in order for it to benefit you, in order for it to benefit me, we must bring that individual into ourselves and actually see ourselves in that role, in that mindset, with that understanding, whatever it may be. It is the same thing, really, that when you're watching a good movie or whatever, you actually identify with one of the characters, or at least one of the characters in the movie itself. And so Neville is here talking about that in order to actually receive a full benefit of these instructions, he states that his approach to it is that the Bible has no reference at all to any person who ever existed or to any event that ever occurred upon earth. The ancient storytellers were, with his continuing with his item, the ancient storytellers were not writing history, but an allegorical picture lesson of certain basic principles which they clothed in the garb of history, and they adapted their stories to the limited capacities of a most uncritical and credulous people. Throughout the centuries, we have mistakenly taken personifications for persons, allegory for history, the vehicle that conveyed the instruction for the instruction, and the gross first sense for the ultimate sense intended. We sometimes talk of this, of receiving something in spirit. We must move into this realm of spirit. And in spirit, there's no time. There's no time. Past, present, and future. There's no time in the realm of spirit. And this is what Neville is talking about. It is always now. The difference, he continues, between the form of the Bible and its substance is as great as the difference between a grain of corn and the life germ within that grain. As our assimilative organs discriminate between food that can be built into our system and food that must be discarded, so do our awakened intuitive faculties discover beneath the allegory and parable the psychological life germ of the Bible. And feeding on this, we too cast off the form which conveyed the message. So he's given an illustration in regard to this. Again, this was a man who had a very astute mind. Let me say it in regard to that. His intuitive faculties were really, really working, and he's moving us into this aspect of the application of the Bible. The application of the Bible so that it is of beneficial benefit to us. It is of benefit to us. It is beneficial to you, to me. And so he says that beneath the story, there is something to be gleaned. Beneath the story, there is something to be gleaned. And to stop at the level of story will not be of great benefit. Jesus himself, the Christ, as he came forth, spoke parables and talked to individuals in parables, and then he spoke to his disciples in such a language that they could understand. And so some individuals actually just remain at the level of story, but we're talking to those individuals who are awakened in their intuitive faculties, and they are seeking to discover the psychological life germ of the Bible. What is its purpose for the day? It's not just history. I never would say it's not history at all. It has a message for this day. He says the argument continues. He says the argument against the historicity of the Bible is too lengthy. Consequently, it is not suitable for inclusion in this practical psychological interpretation of its stories. Therefore, I will waste no time in trying to convince you that the Bible is not an historical fact. Tonight I will take 4 stories and show you how the ancient storytellers intended that you and I should see in these stories. The ancient teachers attached psychological truths to phallic and solar allegories. They did not know as much of the physical structure of man as do modern scientists. Neither did they know as much about the heavens as do our own